A couple days ago, I made a video called The Tragedy of Titanfall. That was a missed opportunity, actually. It should have been, and I changed it after, but it should have always been The Titanic Fall of Titanfall. But anyways, the video discussed how the original Titanfall game has been rendered completely unplayable by the sophisticated use of bots to inject themselves into the matchmaking process and fill up every single public matchmaking instance for the entire game. Effectively, the game is rendered completely unplayable from a multiplayer perspective, and yet Respawn and EA are still actively selling this game, even putting it on sale for Steam users, despite the game being effectively completely useless, and the issues being a persistent problem for years. There has to be some sort of legal recourse there. I'm not a lawyer, but they are knowingly selling a product that simply does not work for $19.99. But here's the thing, in that video I mostly just focused on Titanfall 1. This is because that was the game that I set out initially to look into, and that was the area where I found the bulk of my information, but what I didn't fully realize is just how deep the issues go, because Titanfall 2 is also under attack in a way that would be, and should be, alarming to anyone and everyone at both Respawn and EA, because it's been happening for months and it's only getting worse. Titanfall 1 is a dead game because a hacker decided to kill it. That's just true. It's been the case for quite a while as well, and even when Respawn does something to change it, which is basically never, they hardly ever act on this, within a week or two the hacker finds a way around and kills the matchmaking once again. But Titanfall 2 is actually very popular and houses a dedicated community of players and streamers. Well, that might not actually be true for much longer, because it appears that the exact same hacker has infiltrated the Titanfall 2 servers and will now DDoS attack, distributed denial of service attack, certain streamers whenever they log into the game. Now, that's not an uncommon thing. I'm not a stranger to DDoS attacks in general, owing to the fact that I cut my teeth on The Division, which had a system called VoIP, or Voice over Internet Protocol, which was a horrifying thing because it meant proximity chat, which everyone used, made your IP public, and someone with enough knowledge and determination, and really just a computer to look up a YouTube guide, could then DDoS attack you simply by scraping your information from the in-game systems. That was a really bad part of The Division, but Titanfall 2 and its player base, especially streamers, is now suffering through something that makes The Division look like Taco Tuesday at a retirement home. What started a few months ago as a simple instance of DDoS attacks targeting specific streamers, it appears that one of the first to be brought down consistently was a streamer by the name Iniquity, has now turned into a blacklist of sorts that circumvents information protection mods and knocks the entire server population of any match that a streamer gets into offline. Here's where I have to give some more background right now. The Titanfall community loves this game, and when faced with the choice of allowing a hacker to destroy their hobby completely, even their livelihood for some, or fighting back, it's a really easy choice. The modding community constructed an add-on which allowed for their information to be hidden, basically creating a streamer mode, if you will, and for a period of time, that appeared to be effective. However, as with every single fix, change, or solution before it, this was temporary. Most recently, streamers have been getting knocked offline once again, but this time, nothing seemed to help. Using a VPN does nothing. Using a different game copy or account does nothing. A mod to hide your information and mask identities for everyone in the lobby that you're in does nothing. And it turns out that the hacker, I say hacker, not DDoSer, because based on all available information from this and the original Titanfall as well, I believe this person to be far more sophisticated than typical DDoSers. The hacker has constructed a blacklist. This blacklist will take any player on it out of any match that they join, regardless of IP, origin name, account name, or apparently any other protection that currently exists. The blacklist mostly targets well-known streamers, but the secondary effects is that the entire in-game population of that server witnesses their ping progressively rise till a point of disconnect, and the list is only expanding with time. Here's the crazy part. This goes beyond any sort of traditional DDoS attack that I have ever seen, something like The Division being standard in my book, because it's not centered on the IP of the individual. It's centered on the dynamic IP of Respawn's own cloud servers. Here's where I'm in way out of my depth, but I'll try my best anyways. In 2015, there was a conference about the tech behind Titanfall, which had specific information relating to how they handle servers and joining. On slide 56 in particular, it says the following, quote, "Because we're running in the cloud, we cannot use DNS or hard code a list of game servers. Day to day, we're going to use totally different servers. Strider, that appears to be the game's matchmaking engine, coordinates everything by telling us where to find servers in real time." End quote. Now, I'm not an expert on this at all, keep that in mind, but knowing that the game operates through cloud computing and that there is dynamic real-time server communication, plus the fact that a player's IP has nothing to do with the attacks being possible at all, it would seem that we have a far more sophisticated attack than most anything else you are likely to encounter in gaming. In fact, the hacker has enough dedicated power devoted to this that they can knock dozens of servers offline simultaneously with an automated process and have gained access to the source engine's multiplayer code in order to query player info, thereby circumventing modified privacy precautions that the community themselves constructed. It seems very apparent to me that a lot of work is going into these attacks and that the issues might be hard-baked right into the very fabric of how Titanfall matchmaking operates. If that's true, this wouldn't be a simple fix. It would be practically an overhaul. And having seen the treatment that EA and Respawn award these issues in the past, for years, literally selling a game that has been unplayable for 3 years due to bot attacks in the Steam store, while also putting it on sale, that comes to mind, I'm nervous that there would be probably not an adequate amount of resources devoted. I've now been in contact with a large number of dedicated Titanfall 2 streamers and community leaders. They seem like great people, and I have to say that they are handling this way better than I ever could or would in their shoes, but the troubling part is that there is a common thread in a lot of the conversations. It turns out that some of the more active community members have known that there is an intrinsic flaw like this for years. Here's the part where I go full-on speculation. Got that? I can't prove this yet, and might never be able to prove it, and might be completely wrong, but it feels like this hacker is connected to Respawn itself in some capacity. Could be a contractor, could be an ex-developer, could be a friend of a developer, I don't know. I'm saying in some capacity because it does feel that way, that they're connected to Respawn in some way. I'll quote a fairly prominent community member for this part, though I'm not sure that they would like their identity out there, so I'll keep that private. Quote, "The amount of vulnerabilities that have continued to be exploited, it doesn't make sense. They ignore our messages, and the tweet they made a month ago was just a solid PR move. We have been reporting issues for weeks, and with Apex Legends Season 9 release, it couldn't have come at a worse time. The kicker, after they addressed it and the Season 9 trailer released, it stopped completely. Season 9 launched, and boom, we began to experience attacks within 48 hours. Before it was just a PC issue, now it's every single platform. They continue to charge brand new players knowing this is happening." End quote. I want to clarify that this sentiment right here is echoed by certain creators I spoke to who have been flown out to Respawn for private play sessions. It is echoed by community members who host events for them or have a direct connection to developers. And once again, the common thread is that they are ignored, the issues are perfectly timed to dissipate and then resurface worse than ever at intermittent times which are convenient for the company, while they receive no meaningful communication whatsoever outside of empty PR statements. It's true that Respawn has just now tweeted an hour ago about, as of the scripting of this video, by the time it actually comes out it'll be much more. "We're aware of a new wave of DDoS attacks affecting the Titanfall games. Team is investigating," with their community coordinator following up afterwards saying, quote, "I know it's been hard for our TF2 community and I'm sorry. We are working on a solution, but this one will take time," end quote. But that only happened after the issue had persisted for months, after the original game was rendered totally unplayable for years, and more importantly, after there had been a very large swell in public attention, whereas before that point, their community suffered just the same, exactly the same, but there were no videos, no viral Twitter threads, and no outside attention. What you do when the spotlight is off matters, and it matters a great deal. It seems to me that Respawn is only now taking notice, or even posting simple PR statements, because the spotlight got turned on. Either the company really is trying to work on this and has been since it became a larger issue, and the problem runs so deep that they simply can't do anything, or they don't care and have not been working on it. Maybe they care, that was the wrong choice of words, I guess, but there has not been an effort to solve it with any meaningful amount of resources or any true degree of success, except for very small periods of time, right when the PR and media machines are in overdrive for a new Apex Legends release or some other tempo moment for the company. I enjoyed Titanfall 2 for quite some time. It's a good game, just objectively it is, and it is actually gaining popularity rapidly for a lot of extremely valid reasons. The title was taking off, streamers were making a living, building communities, and all of that is now being torn down by an extremely sophisticated series of DOS attacks. I learned during the production of this video, actually, and this is postscript, that the back-end exploitation of the Strider matchmaking software is likely a denial of service attack, but it's not distributed, so that's where that distinction comes from. They appear to have a certain level of access, the hacker does, into the actual operations of the Titanfall servers, and that should be alarming to everyone. The hacker behind this, many are still unsure if it's an individual or a group. It seems that there could be a set of 3 kind of accomplices to one main core individual, though consensus and some of the people I've talked to are now pointing to that one core individual as the exclusive person behind all of it, claimed at one point in time, by playing with this phrase as his in-game tag, Quote, "You know who John Shearing is? He is my lead engineer slave at Respawn. During a period of time when John Shearing, now an ex-Respawn developer, was in fact the lead engineer, who designed a lot of the, go figure, networking infrastructure." Obviously, we have no way to actually verify anything here, but when a hacker who is responsible for utterly destroying the base Titanfall game for years makes that claim and is currently running a blacklist, as of the very moment I wrote this script, he appears to have turned it off for a few hours, but there is no telling how long that will last, that will track and crash streamers through seemingly any protection measure that exists, even across separate accounts and platforms, well, maybe we need to examine that with a slightly different lens. I learned this from a community member who manages a database that tracks Titanfall 2 servers and stats, and it's far from anything actionable, but when you look at all of this in context, it becomes very clear that a lot is happening behind the scenes. Through this process, I've learned a great deal about John Yu, or at least a lot about the community and what they claim about John Yu. And John Yu is the hacker that is suspected of being behind all of these things. But to summarize one of the more detailed accounts, it seems that this might be the culmination of a multi-year battle between a hacker, meticulous, adaptive, and extremely obsessed with Titanfall, and the entire community of a multi-million-dollar franchise. It started with a player who seemed to be simply bad at the game, this is what I was told, who began to use low-level hacks and aimbot cheats in order to get an edge. What followed was a 3-year time span where John Yu studied and explored the server code, finding or leveraging ways to exploit the software and break the game for others. One such example, and the way he was able to crash the original Titanfall game to a point of absolutely no return, was his use of bot account names containing a ridiculous number of characters, which would, pardon my lack of a technical term here, fuck everything up because it messed with game operations when the tags got too long. I'm talking insane length, not just a couple hundred characters, like many thousands, I think. He went through a series of phases, such as the automation of the bot attack network to stall the entire Titanfall 1 game, but when that was victorious, and he was victorious, the game was and is, I believe, completely unplayable, and has been for months after his latest wave of attacks, and he could probably turn that back on at any point in time because the issues are so hard-coded right into what Titanfall is. But anyways, he moved on after beating Titanfall 1 to Titanfall 2, finding additional ways to destroy a matchmaking engine which is barely cobbled together in the first place. And if of everything that I've learned, the one thing that I know is that Strider is a horrible engine. I have to blur this because it contains the full docs of a man near the age of 50 who is suspected of being John Yu, but I was sent a document that contains a collection of evidence pointing to who this person most likely is, complete with recorded audio phone calls, text messages, as well as court records and previous internet activity history. I cannot show this, obviously. I cannot dox this person because I have no actual proof that it really is them as of right now, but the story of a community versus a hacker is deeper than I ever previously imagined. While producing this video actively, it appears that the blacklist was temporarily disabled. Streamers have played for a few hours and seem to be allowed to do so, but judging by the pattern of short-term relief when Respawn enters key moments for public relations, I can't imagine it will last long. It seems very much like this hacker, whoever they really are, whatever they really want, is very keen on remaining below the radar. That might, and probably is, already impossible, but it seems that they deliberately stop when Respawn takes notice, or finally says that they might do something or investigate, and they attack when no one is paying attention really, leveraging vulnerabilities all over the Titanfall infrastructure to circumvent the defenses that are constructed to stop them. Here are the facts. Titanfall is a broken product that does not function, albeit as a result of third-party malice, but still the effects are exactly the same. Being sold by EA, Respawn, and Steam to an audience who can't even log in and haven't been able to enjoy steady access to the game for years. Titanfall 2 is now under siege by the very same hacker who has managed to automate back-end server exploits that render certain players completely unable to play, while disconnecting the entire match of players who are with them, and they can use that automated system at any point across any platform for any account that people use, adding or subtracting to it on a whim. Here's the speculation. This person might very well have been found, and I might have all of their information in a document already. It seems very possible given the information that was shared with me. They have claimed, at least in passing, a connection to the lead engineer who created most of the broken networking features for the franchise, and though the blacklist they most recently created has been temporarily turned off, it is highly likely, given their pattern thus far, that a harder-hitting, more intense version is on the way, or at the very least that they will dodge as much attention as possible, only to circle back soon. Bottom line, the Titanfall community and the Titanfall 2 community have been under siege. They have been attacked, seemingly abandoned, at least until the spotlight shone so bright that they couldn't be ignored any further, and shoved aside while their experience is actively destroyed. For some, it's their livelihood as well, honestly. Steam, EA, and Respawn put the game on sale, offer free weekends, and spike their profits, as well as their player-based metrics, knowingly pushing a title, both titles actually, that is completely insecure. And while I sincerely hope that this can be solved, everything I have seen points to that being, at best, a long shot. Anything I can do to help, as little as it may be when the sum total of my efforts is ranting at a microphone on YouTube, should absolutely be done because this needs to be solved, as in truly, legitimately patched out of existence as soon as possible. Let's hope it happens. That's it. If you want to support, there are links down below. Best thing is Odyssey. It's a YouTube platform alternative that greatly supports their creators. You can sign up and watch for free. Also Locals, $5 a month to support the channel further, and you get totally ad-free versions of all the videos, as well as the audio podcast format. There's another gaming YouTuber to check out, merch, social media, etc., but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.